Hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker as we ride into Clayton again. Well, we're riding through Clayton, actually. But yeah, today I just wanted to talk about how much I actually really like the Rebel. I don't know, can you see that? But Niall is behind me on the Rebel. And you know, how much I've been enjoying when I actually go out for a spin on it, and ideas I've had, and what's everyone's opinion on those? This is very much a, hey, my brain was making thoughts and I'm wondering what you all think. So, as you all know, I have been agonizing for literally a year over what to do with this bike, kind of since I decided I wasn't going to have it as a track/street bike anymore, just because it's just not, it's not the most suitable, and it was, you know, I mean, it wasn't a bad idea, but it wasn't really the right idea either. So, you know, I'm very happy with the SV650. I'm, you know, the time I got the last day at NC Bike with finally a properly working SV650. I'll leave a link up there for the track videos, or for one of the track videos at least, and I'm sure you can find the rest of them if you want to. But basically, oh, the market's all cleaned up. It's always nice how clean they leave it. But yeah, anyway, the SV650 I can definitely go even faster than I had gone on, and whereas this, and I feel like I'm holding that bike back, whereas with this bike it felt like the bike's geometry and whatnot was holding me back, largely around its ground clearance. But I just didn't want to spend the money to change the ground clearance, I suppose, knowing that it was never going to be right, you know. And there's a couple of options. If I ever found like a crashed MT09, I would love to build like a super hooligan-esque bike, because I think that's one of the coolest classes in racing, and I'll explain why in a sec. But I just want to get to the other option as well that I've been thinking of. So there's the MT09, like a crash one or something, build it into a super hooligan. I bought a lightweight trailer that my car can actually tow to the track, so that I can, you know, I could theoretically bring two bikes. The SV650 is obviously just going to stay in the garage now. I feel like I have a lot to learn on that bike, so it's something that I really want to do. I want to get better on it. You know, it's not a thing, you know, like, oh, this bike is too slow or whatever. It was when it was broken. I didn't realize how broken it was, fuel flow wise, but now it's, you know, it feels so much better, and it feels so much better all the time, which, you know, once the bike feels right and the bike feels consistent, then you can actually build a little bit of trust and build a little bit of speed. At least that's how I work. You know, I'm never going to push like as fast as I absolutely can on a track day, because it's a track day and I have to go to work the next day. But yeah, anyway, the second option is a Honda SEL 500. Mainly because I've enjoyed myself so much on the Rebel. You know, I'd actually was like, oh, you know what? I forgot how much I like really light bikes. And also now that I have the trailer, technically, you know, me and Toaster and, you know, Niall, if he gets a light bike, could load those up and tow them over to the mountains on a Friday night when, you know, you really don't want to be riding a bike after, you know, a long day at work and commuting and whatnot all the way to the mountains. But I would jump in a car and tow a trailer over, and then you have like all of Saturday and most of Sunday, load them back up, come home. And, you know, those light bikes, not only would they be easy to tow, but over there in the mountains they'd be a lot of fun on the twistier roads. Now, theoretically, I could tow this bike and the Rebel and accomplish, you know, the same kind of thing for me. I love this bike. I will never get sick of how it rides. But the thing about this bike is it is actually very, very heavy. I'll put the weight on the screen now of this one, because I did weigh the whole breadbox section when I took it off the bike. So that's what this bike is sitting at right about, you know, roughly now. And, you know, that's fine. That's easy to tow too, really. But I think it would just be more fun to have a bike kind of more in line with Toaster, just to be able to actually, like, you know, rev it out and whatnot. Because if you rev this thing out, like in second gear, this thing is already going extremely fast. Like this is a 45 zone, and I'll do a very gentle pull. And there's Niall on the Rebel. So gentle pull, extremely gentle pull. That's 45. That's it. Like, and that was 45 and then decelerated, you know what I mean? But that's what I'm talking about. This one is, well, this is a very fun bike. If you've never been on the Blue Ridge Parkway, the whole Blue Ridge Parkway is pretty much 45 or less. So, you know, not that I wouldn't enjoy this bike there, I would, but it would be, I feel like it would be a lot more fun if I had something like lighter, you know, do the suspension on it and stuff. And I have been looking at those Honda SCL 500s. I don't think they're available. No, they are. I found it on HondaPowersports.com. But that's a bike that I would definitely be interested in. And I feel like if I sold this bike, it would cover most of the purchase price of an SCL 500. You know, then I have to account for a couple of modifications and whatnot. But I feel like I could have a lot of fun on that bike. You know, and it's literally... And that's kind of my options is, you know, keep this, try find a crashed MT09 for reasonable money and fix it up into a track bike suitable for me. Or sell this and get like a lighter weight bike. Doesn't have to be an SCL 500, doesn't have to be anything that new. Just something that I could actually, you know, rev out and have a bit of fun on while Toaster was on the Rebel. And, you know, I know that's going to come up. And the other thing is, the easiest way to get to the mountains to enjoy the weekend is to just get on like a motorway or a highway and, you know, blast. If you've never ridden over here, the highways are not pleasant. They're full of people driving cars on their phones and stuff like that. Now, I am absolutely fine being on a highway. I've been riding quite a long time. I'm quite comfortable with how bad some people are on the road. It's unfortunate. I wish it wasn't like that, but it is. However, I completely understand why something like that will put someone off, like Toaster, for instance. You know, she hasn't been riding that long. She hasn't put down a huge amount of miles. And the only time she never actually had fun on the Blue Ridge Parkway trip was when we were doing, like, highway stuff. So if I can remove that uncomfortable, unpleasant section of riding and just get us over there of a Friday evening and just have a place that it's enjoyable, you know, for her, I feel like that's going to breed a lot more enjoyment for bikes in general, you know, just to show like, hey, this is possible. And then as you build your confidence, obviously you do get better at dealing with the suck, the really bad, unpleasant part of riding, which is unfortunately modern car drivers. You know, I don't think anything will ever be done. Most days now I see so many people just driving, watching YouTube or Netflix literally at their steering wheel or texting with their phone at their steering wheel. Like, it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. And I think it's all the Harleys. I think it's way too easy for people to forget that they're driving a vehicle that is actually technically more dangerous than like a pew-pew, because you're not allowed to say that word on YouTube anymore, I don't think. The thing that shoots the things that hurt people, but they generally hurt one person at a time. A car can hurt a lot of people at a time. And it's absolutely mental to me that people seem to forget that, you know. It's an unfortunate part of modern life that people feel like they can't just not look at their phones for, you know, 30 minutes to an hour. You can. Trust me, I drive an hour each way to work every day, and I do not spend that hour on my phone. I listen to music that I start before I leave, and that's it. But yeah, so that's kind of my thought process, is build an MT09 Super Hooligan, and we'll talk about why I think it's such a cool class now in a sec. Or like a lightweight bike. Doesn't have to be an SCL 500, it's just one of my ideas. And then, you know, be able to tow light bikes easily over to the mountains and have fun on a weekend. Because at the moment that is honestly what's kind of not holding me back from, but making me not want to, you know, go over to the mountains as often as I don't want to leave Toaster behind, you know, because I want her to come with me and have fun. That's important to me. And why I think the Super Hooligan class is so cool is it's really accessible for like taller people, you know, because it's on nakeds. And for the longest time, obviously, like if you watch, you know, MotoGP, and I love MotoGP, it's a sport I'll follow forever. The problem with MotoGP is, you know, if you look up like Marc Marquez is like 5'7", 5'8", something like that, and like, you know, I don't know, 60-something kg. Like, even if I somehow got talented, even if I somehow got talented, I'm just too heavy. I'm never going to, you know, be able to compete with someone like that. Like, even, you know, at the end, again, at NC Bike, one of my friends, Charlie, was on an SV650. Now, he has a slightly newer SV650. Maybe it does have naturally more power or whatever else, but also on the straights, you could see, even when I was like rolling on the throttle earlier than I was super comfortable with, just to see, I like experimentation. You know, he was still rolling on me on the straight. So weight makes a huge difference, unfortunately. And, you know, I think when you remove the amount of aerodynamics that is on a super sport or a super bike, you know, I think it makes less of a difference. And that's, you know, obviously when you use nakeds, air resistance is there for everyone, of course. Lighter people are still going to have an advantage, but I just feel like they have less of an advantage. You know, maybe even, you know, heavier people can get themselves turning the bike better just because they have that much more weight or whatever. I don't know, maybe it's in my head, but that's also why, as of today, I saw that Harley Davidson have, you know, announced an actual partnership with MotoGP for King of the Baggers. Now, I know that, you know, King of the Baggers seems like a joke to a lot of people. I think it's really cool because, again, the heavier the bike and the bigger the bike, the more, or the less really the impact of how small the rider has on it, because it's all about kind of like relativity in a way, like the relative weight of the rider to the bike. The smaller that differential is, like, or that percentage is, the less of a difference it's going to make. Like, I'm probably 55% of the weight of this bike. So if someone's 30% of the weight of this bike or less, that's gonna be a you know, a pretty big difference. But if one person's 8% and one person's 10%, it's gonna make less of a difference. So, you know, Super Hooligans, something I would really like to build is an MT09 for sure, just to have fun. Obviously, you see the Pan America stripped down and whatever else. That's the bike to beat right now. But they're way out of my league of affordability. Whereas an MT09, a crashed MT09 or something, theoretically, I could do that. So I think that's really why that's attracted me to it. And yeah, I just think the whole King of the Baggers partnering with MotoGP, I just think it's cool. I think it's cool to see more classes of bikes. Racing. I love racing. I've always loved racing. I've loved car racing. I've loved motorbike racing. I will always watch superbikes and super sports race. But honestly, because it seems more attainable, even if it's not, even if that's all in my mind, but because it seems more attainable to me to theoretically one day ride on a Super Hooligan or like a King of the Baggers in an amateur class and be relatively competitive, that's something that's exciting to me. You know, that is something that's exciting to me. So let me know your thoughts. If you were in my position, would you try to find a crashed MT09 to build into a Super Hooligan, which would likely have to lead to the sale of this bike as well? Would you keep this bike and just bring this one to the mountains and ride a fast bike slow with a slow bike, a slower bike? The Rebel isn't slow. Or would you sell this and go for like a lightweight bike like an SCL 500 or something else that's used and cheaper or whatever? You know, let me know. What would you like to do? So if you've watched, thank you very much for watching. As always, a very special thank you to all of my patrons. Thanks for Niall for getting me out on the bike today. I'll explain probably in the next video. That's a lot of stones. I appreciate you as much as there is stones in there. Now, there you go. I definitely planned that example. Maybe, possibly. There's the boring ass highway with everyone on their phones probably, maybe. And yeah, until next time, thank you again for watching. Adios. Outro crew, if you could pick one lightweight bike like sub 200 kg, ideally closer to 180, 190 kg, if you could pick one bike for me to get to partner up with the Rebel 500 instead of this one, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. Bye, Outro crew.